and welcome back. So, for today, I'm really excited to have on our next guest. He's a very funny guy. He's a comedian and also a podcaster, has a comic strip and everything. So, please give a warm welcome to Adam Tiller. Hello,
Thanks, Samantha.
Adam. Yes. Happy to have you on. You know what? I want to also say that the podcast is called Fadam and Friends, comic strip, Beefcake and Butterball. And the website you can find him at is www.adamtillercomedy.com. Yeah.
Thanks
Feeling
for
my
having me
intros,
on.
of course. Absolutely. My intros have been getting like worse lately because I'm just like, all right, let's get to talking.
Yeah.
So,
Your video's a little delayed for me, so I'm like kind of guessing as to when you're done speaking or not, but let's roll with it. I think it should be interesting.
yeah, it's good to not have it like be perfect since
Yeah.
perfection is so like
Wouldn't be fun if it was.
that's totally your thing is perfection, isn't it? Like
um
you're just all about perfection in your podcast and your stand up in your life, wouldn't you say?
I I don't think so. I mean, you can see behind me I did not finish the soundproofing in my studio, so or in my bedroom. And I guess if I wanted perfection, like I probably wouldn't be living in Everett, Washington. Like I
Yeah.
I have a weird contrast between like being really motivated to do certain things and then having no interest to doing like really practical life things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I want to talk about like I was not thinking to make a joke about like perfection or anything, but I like it when these like little natural mess ups happen or like happy accidents happen
Hmm.
in the interviews because then it's like, oh, it's a question I didn't even think of. Because like, A, I don't think perfection even exists. Like I
Hmm.
think we get so caught up. I don't know about for guys how much you do, but I know for a lot of women we can feel like the pressure to be perfect and what that means and blah blah blah. So I always like to point out, well, it doesn't exist anyway. So what are we really after?
Well, it's funny you say that because I got like, it's such a shitty piece of paper duct tape to my wall in front of where I write.
Mm-hmm.
And it just says, it's a quote that I read that said, "The perfect is the enemy of good."
Mm.
And I really liked it. And so I put it on a shitty piece of paper and taped it in front of me to look at all the time. But it's chasing that perfection in anything creative. Um, it can be diminishing to you
Yeah.
doing actually what you're trying to do. So
The
I
enemy
think,
of good. Yeah. So,
yeah.
and before I jump in and talk more about, oh, well, what do I think about that? Like what what else is it about that? Like how do you find perfection? How do you find good? Why is that the enemy of good? Why can it diminish what you're going after so much?
When we get into that, it feels like a lot of this stuff you feel like you're splitting hairs with. Like you're like, what the, it's all this like theoretical shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
That's where I live.
yeah. Like I don't know. I had Verlin Roberts on um my podcast recently, and we kind of made the news unintentionally, but he is a voice actor, and he just booked a big commercial for AT&T, so he's going to be on a national campaign, which is cool. I don't know if you
Really
guys
cool.
ever really hung out
Yeah.
or met, but
Yeah, I met him before doing comedy, so yeah, I've got to see some of what he's up to. So I'm happy for him.
he's
Cool.
a homie, and like he
Yeah.
just has such a great mentality. And we were talking about just how, there's all this like preparation and writing or coaching or all these things that you do, but at some point, like you you gotta play, like
Mhm.
whatever it is that you're doing performance wise, or like podcasting or whatever. Like I don't think most people understand that when these microphones come on, something happens mentally where you're on, kind of,
Yeah.
even when you don't feel on. And um the closest thing I've been able to relate it to is like sex. Like you can read about sex, people can talk to you about sex, all this stuff, but until you're fucking, it's a different situation. Like it's
Yeah, I'm gonna have to remember to mark this episode explicit. So if I don't,
I
you
knew
guys,
it. I knew
we're
it.
gonna really get into it. No, we're gonna start okay. Well, yeah, you
Until
can.
you're making love. Okay, you can use that, but it's honestly like there's such a difference between the theoretical and the, like, you can watch stuff, you can see it in movies or whatever, but when that camera comes on you, not like not for OnlyFans, but like for you as
Oh
an
my
actress,
gosh.
like all your preparation, yeah, that's great, but there is an element of like just you artistically. And I think
Yeah.
it's this unclear thing to me as to what, like, how much, like, you always want to be a student of the game, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is you're trying to do, but you also have to give yourself the um like compassion and like ability to fail, and like enough bandwidth for you to take chances and grow as an artist too. So it's
Yeah.
complicated. Splitting hairs, OnlyFans, but it's like
You
we're going
know,
all
I
over the
know
place.
I'm forcing myself to be serious and not like go into comedian mode and like make jokes about the topic and say I've learned a lot about you right now. But is no, but I actually, that comparison I think is really brilliant because like you're saying, you can read about it, you can plan, you can think, oh, you want it to be the perfect experience and whatever, blah blah blah. But that, well, I'll just go back to, because you're talking about sex, that like it, relationship in the moment thing that happens that you can't actually really plan for too much. Like you plan a bit, but you don't really know what's like happening until you're like really there. And then also it's about what it is with the other person. So I thought at first I laughed, but then I'm like, actually that's super smart because
Thank you.
yeah, yes, you're welcome. So when you're thinking about like, you know, thinking about going to do stand up, or like you said, like thinking about doing acting or something like that, you do all your preparation and you get caught up and that you want it to be perfect. But when you're planning for that perfection, you're planning in a theoretical environment. When you're actually on the stage, when you actually have the microphone or you're with your scene partners, it's going to vary. There's a level of it that you cannot plan for.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you're so stuck on your idea of perfection, it'll take you out of the moment of actually being good at the thing that you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's spot on what I meant. And like, think about it. Okay, let me preface something by saying a lot of the times I say things and it seems very like crass or like just really on the nose or whatever. Like people would be like, "Oh, why would you say that?" in whatever setting. It's like I have kind of my own mental health stuff that goes on that like causes that for me, but like I just sort of call a spade, and sometimes that can be tough for people to hear, but like it's who I am, so I'm trying not to like dodge it so much
Mm-hmm.
either. But
Yeah.
think about like if you really put yourself back to that first time that you had, like, you know, that moment with somebody, think of how scary it is, and like how like uncertain you are and all that stuff. And it's very similar to the first time you're on stage. Like you just have, there's no way to prepare for it. Like you, no matter what you do, like you're going up there blind. And then as you do it more, like you said, like there's all these different components of like who it's with and the relationship you have with that person, like the dynamics and all that stuff. And that's just the closest thing I've ever been able to compare it to. It's a
Yeah.
hard thing to compare it to.
You know, it is, yeah, it's so it's just, yeah, this is not how I expected the interview to go, but that's totally fine. It's a pleasant surprise, right? Or not so pleasant. I don't know, listeners, what you think. But the I find it interesting too because you're also like a stand-up, and I do, you know, and I've said it before, but like of all the various art forms that I've done or practiced, like stand-up is the most terrifying, but it's also the one that makes has made me feel like the most vulnerable and most naked on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there's that level of vulnerability, and you never like you really never know what, like you can know what jokes do work or don't work generally, but you never really know.
such a binary thing too. Like there's not with drama, with like all these other
Mhm.
genres of entertainment, like there's not this kind of go no go criteria of if is it good, is it not good. Like if the audience laughs, then it's good. But like sometimes the audience sucks, and like sometimes the audience isn't ready for jokes. And then sometimes like so there's all these like layers to it. And I mean, as you see more and more of it and like see more hands, you
Mhm.
realize like there's some times where stock jokes aren't going to work, and sometimes where, riffing might not work. And like you
Yeah.
have all these things, like the person that went up before you just ice the entire room. And like you really, you can have the training, you can have the preparation stuff, but like you're up there for a reason too.
Yeah.
Like you that reason's different for everybody, but um
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I think it's a good point. Like, because I do, I will ask you like what it is that brought you into stand up and what it is that you get out of it personally, and I will ask you that. But I before we get into that, I just um before I stopped you as you made your reference to what it's like. Actually, I'm glad I didn't stop you because I was actually taking it a totally different direction. The idea of perfection being the enemy of good, it made me like flash back to when I was reading the Scarlet Letter and then like watching the Crucible, of course, like totally opposite, super puritanical. I mean, not entirely opposite. I mean, they're still in that realm, but it's just how they react to it. And just thinking about how sometimes people who are so focused on being good take it so far to the point that then they're terrible to themselves and everybody else.
mhm.
So, yeah.
I haven't seen either of those two things.
What?
So yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, the Scarlet Letter was part of our required reading and is like an American classic. And then the Crucible is just like it's a great play and movie, and I find them really interesting. But anyway,
No,
uh
I that's one thing I want to get into. Like the more I've done creating, the more like this past year where like everybody was all upset and stuff. I'm like, you're gonna tell me I get to sit and watch movies for like a year straight? Like I watched so much shit and like had so much fun just consuming art as a creative person, be like, oh, that's what they're doing there. And like I love that stuff. Like it to me, it's not like any kind of work. It's just like
yeah.
I love being entertained. It's my
Mhm.
favorite thing. And I guess that would be why I'm probably in this thing, because it's
Yeah.
like just to be part of it, I feel very like lucky, I guess. And the people you meet and like how open-minded folks are, like that's when you're around like really creative people. And I've noticed this not just with like stand-ups or actors or whatever, but like musicians
Yeah.
especially, like they're just so non-judgmental about stuff that like most people are like, like
Mhm.
you can have a conversation without like jumping to the first conclusion of, oh, well, we can't talk about that. And then you end up like seeing different perspectives that are so cool. And
Yeah.
I love that because I moved around a lot growing up. Like I lived in 10 states by the time I was 10. And like from like a when you do that, you see like the line moves where you go. Like so what offends somebody in Minnesota is not offensive in Florida,
I see. Yeah.
and vice versa. And so like you can talk about you can shit on Jesus in Washington, like in Seattle, Washington. But if you did the same joke in the Sun Belt, they'd boo you off the stage. And
Mhm.
so you start seeing like, hey, like maybe um, who you're around influences your opinions on stuff.
Mhm.
And so I'm always very skeptical of like my geography affecting what I believe personally, like just from a, and I don't know if that's really related to this podcast, but like it's,
Everything's related to this podcast. I
yeah,
mean, it's really just about like how performance arts helps us be more authentic or in touch with ourselves. And I mean, Anytime we're really honest with ourselves, it helps us to be more authentic. And just what you're saying, I mean, a lot of times people who are in the arts, whether or not they're professional or not, there's something about that thinking that that often is more inclusive and less judgmental.
Sometimes
Yes, I
depends
know,
on
often,
who.
often, but not always.
I mean,
And also, like you said, why they're doing it. Because
yeah.
I've definitely met people who it's like it's even more ego driven. I mean, I think everybody who performs has a certain level of like, I want you to see what I'm doing.
Think
But
it's necessary.
yeah, exactly, because you're getting up there. But I mean, some people, it can be a tool where it helps them be better versions of themselves and connect with people. Other people, um, it can be kind of dangerous.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's interesting because this business and this industry, like it, the past 15 years, like a lot of stuff came to light.
Hmm.
But if you look at it historically, it's riddled with, like, people don't leave this industry like happily most of the time. It ends pretty bad for a lot of folks. And I like, I'm fortunate in that, you know, I had some issues with substance abuse like early in life. Like, you know, I stopped drinking when I was like 21. And I can't imagine, like, some of the people that I'm out with regularly, it's like every night they're getting sloshed, or every night. I mean, I don't do whatever, people can do whatever they want to do. But to me, if you're high all day, every day, that that isn't living to me. Like, that's just like, that's something's going on there, in my opinion. And I mean, maybe somebody has a particular reason for that, like medically, or whatever. I'm not sitting there to pass judgment, but like, there's just a lot of like, the the benefit of creative space is that you, like, these communities is everybody's welcome, and the negative is that everybody is welcome. You know what I mean? And it's like, some people aren't even there for creative reasons, they're
Right.
just there because it's a hang and they can get trashed.
Hmm.
And you know, there's a lot of great artists that came out of that still, but like, it's it's a weird mixing pot.
Right.
Like, and I mean, how do you always judge like who's okay to hang out with and who's not? I mean,
That's
it's a
why I hang out with
very
nobody. No, I'm kidding. I hang out with nobody, but that's mostly because of the pandemic.
yeah. You've been much better about that than me.
Yeah, I know. I'm freaking like, I'm, yeah, still going strong.
How are you feeling, by the way? Like, you're, you know,
I
things
know.
are. Are you
Things
talking
are,
about it on here? Is this
um, I know I haven't, but I suppose I should.
Let's be
Um,
authentic.
Goodness, I'm authentic and liking to be private. I'll talk about like public things publicly and private things privately. But yeah, no, listeners, if you're interested, and actually it may be good to know because I may need to take like a little break from the podcast for a while. We'll
You
see.
probably
But
might
I'm
want to.
about to be a new mom, and you know, I still got some time left before the baby's here. So yeah.
Baby Adam's coming.
Oh my gosh. You guys, just so you know, that's not that's not true. He's not the father.
No, no, no. I
My
meant
mom's
that you're
gonna.
naming the baby Adam.
Oh no, I'm not naming the baby Adam. But that's just like a also not naming the baby Adam. My mom's gonna love this part of the show.
Did she
So
watch?
um yeah, she does.
Really?
She's actually watching right now. No. But she does watch it, so she'll watch it on YouTube.
Well,
I
shout out to your mom, because she is a homie, and I enjoyed hanging out with her a couple months back before everything went down,
uh-huh.
and hope she's enjoying her new spot.
Yeah. Oh boy, you guys, I need to be on topic here. So I'm going to
Yeah, keep
go
going.
back on topic. Adam,
Authenticity.
what, how did you get into stand up? What is it that you get out of it other than tormenting people whose shows you go on as a guest? Um, tell me everything. Yeah, no, but did you when were you interested in stand-up comedy? Did you always want to do it when you started it? Did you think about doing it professionally, or were you like, you know, what's going on?
Yeah, I was a huge fan of stand up. Like, I think the year before I got into it, I went to shows like pretty much any time there was a headliner that I thought was interesting or good. And my idea of like what's a good act now has changed a lot because I know what my tastes are
Hmm.
and like what I appreciate from a comic. I question a lot of times like if there's such a thing as like a good comic, like, because it's a subjective thing. It's a different conversation, but I love going to stand up, and like I always left the shows feeling like, oh, that's something that I think I could do. But there was such a, like, it felt like such a distance from like where I am at that moment to what those people are doing, that it wasn't feasible. And I felt like I needed to go somewhere to do it. And like I was interested. So I was listening to podcasts about it. And, um, you know, as I've gotten into stand up, one thing I wish that I kind of knew earlier was that like don't let other people's experiences and negative experiences determine what you can and can't do. Like I was you've seen The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, right?
I
So
actually haven't seen it yet.
I think you'd like it a lot, but there's a scene in the movie and he's talking to Jaden Smith, like the character Jaden's playing, and I wish that it wasn't Jaden Smith because it makes this scene like much less meaningful to me now. But I don't like Jaden Smith, but
Oh, okay. I was like,
he says to him like Jaden wants to play basketball when he grows up, and he says like, hey, you shouldn't put too much time into this, like don't waste time that it never came for me, it's probably not going to come for
mm,
you. And then he like puts the ball in the bag, and then he walks over to him and he says, don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't do something, even especially if it's me.
mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of people, um, other comics, uh, people that had faced adversity or whatever. I don't know all their stories and stuff. There were a lot of people telling me no, like a lot of people. And arguably, I would say still today, there's a lot of people that, like, for whatever reason, people don't tend to like me that much, I think, or that's my perception of it. Um, Seattle's a weird place, and um, it's a like there's a lot of negative people in this area from what I've experienced, and I sort of had to just like rely on the work and the love that I have for this thing to keep me motivated. And it it's easy to just like fall back and be like, you know what, I'm gonna just not take this seriously,
Mm-hmm.
or not want to do anything. And like everybody has their own reasons for doing it. So if your goal is to just hang out and do like a show once a month and make $20, like congratulations. Like that's that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not my goal. Like that's not what I want my life to look like in 10 years, like, and there's a lot of like it just feels like there are a lot of people comfortable with like making up reasons for why they're not doing what they should be doing. And last I checked, there's no reason why you can't produce a show. There's no reason why you can't start a podcast. There's no
Yeah, yeah.
reason why you can't write.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot more people talking shit than there are people writing jokes, you know,
Yeah.
and across the board with life, like it's whether it's comedy or it's just a lot easier to
Yeah.
complain about something than to get your hands dirty and work at it. And
Yeah.
I know that everybody's situation's different, and that's not a like across the board thing, but like I respect people that put in the effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like it sucks putting in the effort. It's hard to consistently put in the effort, especially
Yeah.
when you don't want to do it. I mean, this podcast, how many episodes have you done?
20. I think I've got 27 out right now.
People don't understand how much dedication it takes to do
Yes.
27 podcasts. And when the
Yeah.
numbers aren't what you want them to be or what you hope them to be, and you can't figure things out, and like it's emotionally overwhelming, and like nobody's there at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what are you doing it for at that point? And um, yeah, I just, I sort of had to kind of just like block the noise out and just do it for the reasons that are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can get off
And
this
yeah,
stepping
no,
stool.
I mean, there's so many things that you said that I like want to talk about, but while you're on, before I do that, can you talk more about what your why is, like what motivates you, what your reasons are for doing it, or is it just
I mean, it's so, this is the strangest thing. Like, I don't know if I really have a why. Like, I just like making noise. Like, I like creating. I like not like when I got into this, I was at a very low place mental health wise. I was very, very depressed. And I wouldn't say that I used stand up to get out of that depression, but it coincided with like me finding purpose in my life of like, oh, this is where I belong. This is the space that I belonged all this time. I just like didn't realize that like it was as accessible as it is.
mm-hmm.
And since doing that, like I don't think I've had a truly bad mental health day since I started like
That's
any
good.
kind of creative stuff. Cause I mean, I was suicidal. Like I was looking at buildings like based off of how tall they were, and like hearing stuff in my head, and like compared to where I am now, like and I've lost, four people to suicide and substance abuse in my life. And it's like, I know how serious that is, but
Yeah.
like that's how low I got. And I didn't know how to like click out of it. And then I was at that point, I was like, I'm going on on
That's right.
stage.
You're going on stage. Nothing else to lose.
Yeah.
Make those jokes.
But compared to, I mean, there's a lot of people that I owe a lot of gratitude to that like sort of there was the negativity
Mm-hmm.
of people in that space, but there are also some like really powerhouse, motivated, kind, like just great people that without them, I wouldn't have like the community aspect of the art space is huge.
Yeah.
Like you always have someone that you can call.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's big, especially because a lot of us are not normal. Like it's we got issues. I mean, a lot of us I don't think would be in this space if you didn't have something that had happened in the past. Or
Everybody says that, and I'm always just like, really, because everybody has issues. I think some people are just more vocal.
you think that's
I think that just because I feel like there doesn't have to be something wrong with you in order to want to pick up a microphone. I mean, you know what I mean? I know that's what they say about like a stereotype for comedians, and I know there's stereotypes for like other performing artists and stuff. But like, show me a person who has no issues and who has no pain and who has no like baggage or no and I'll show you a person who hasn't been born yet. I mean,
I guess
that's just how I feel. I i mean, it's, you know what it is, it's the idea of normal that I take issue with now in life. I didn't when I was younger, but like now, like the older I get, the more I'm like, what is normal? Because
Mhm.
especially when you talk about like going to different regions, or if you're in different groups or this or that, like the ideas of what is normal, it changes. Like, yes, I think there are certain things that are normal and not normal. Like, you're not going to go like hurting, you're not, you go like hurting and killing people, or like certain things are just
The
wrong. It's
definition
just
of your
wrong.
cousin
But
probably changes in state by state.
oh, yeah, my cousin specifically. Thank you for looking into my record. I'm kidding. No, I know
I just mean like
like,
in Louisiana, people probably think about their cousins different than they do in Washington.
wow, you
Like,
really want to make sure that this episode gets flagged, don't you?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, there are certain things like that. Like when you look at this, might not be the best conversation for the pod, but like when you look at something serious like murder or whatever, like you just said, like that's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
But then area by area, there's these exceptions and stuff. And then you look at like how, like you go to a place like Utah,
Hmm.
and it's just all of the norms are so different from the state right next to it. And
Yeah.
um it's interesting. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's we can move on from
Yeah, no, no, no.
that.
It's just the idea of what is normal is like a thing. Yeah.
I think
Oh,
trauma like can be a very useful thing once time has passed for someone creatively, just from a like an energy fuel, like motivation, because there's so many different types of like art, whether it's artists like doing it from an expressive standpoint or from like a form standpoint. Are they trying to be iconoclastic or going against the grain? Authenticity? Are they just trying to master the craft of that actual thing? Like how straight can you paint a line, or like the
mhm.
actual like fundamentals? And being able to articulate and understand that, I think, is really important to anybody that's in this space. And like just seeing like, hey, this person's doing that, like there's nothing wrong with them doing that and me doing this, but
Yeah.
like appreciating what they do and what you could possibly learn from that person too.
Yeah.
And it's sort of weird to me when people do stand up, but they aren't fans of watching stand up comedy. Like it's
Yeah.
very, very strange to me. Like, so you just have it figured out, right? Because
Yeah.
last I checked, we're all learning from each other,
Yeah.
and uh,
Yeah. Well, there was something that you said. I just want to go. Well, there's so many things you said, but when you brought up
just
trauma,
tell me to
actually,
shut up at
no,
times.
I'm not telling. No, I invite you on the podcast so you talk. But that idea of trauma, I would be curious to find out. Like, I always want to do. Like, I always want to perform, but I also like have this part of me that loves to do research. So if you're listening and you're part of a university or you do grants and you want somebody to help you with like research on creatives, message me, because I just find it, when you brought up that idea of trauma, like, yes, what is normal varies from place to place. And yes, I don't think that normal is necessarily a useful term because of how that can change. But I would not everybody in life experiences the same level or types of trauma,
Yeah,
and that um, having a creative outlet can be extremely healing to recover from trauma, and one can use that, all of that stuff from it, like to somehow transform it. Not saying go traumatize people, like, no, don't like, don't, you know
usually
but
you're the subject of the person, like you're
right.
the victim.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I think like, yeah, I just think that's so useful, because if, when people are traumatized, like so often, you get caught in like some sort of time loop or repetitive thinking cycle, and like what it does to you, your body and your mind and your voice and all of that, it can make things like stuck and destructive. So being in a place where it's like, guess what, you have the microphone now and you have to use your voice, or you have to dance now, so you get to like things go through your body, or you act, and so it's like emotion, it's like this movement, it's a creative movement, but it also takes you out of your habitual pattern of your everyday life, so it can kind of work on you and as things like move through you.
As an artist, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like some of the best
Oh
stuff,
wait, you don't think what's a bad thing?
uh, trauma. Like I don't think like I think if you look historically, some of the like best art that was ever created happened because of things like that. And I'm not saying like, oh, go experience trauma so that you can make good art. It's just like you look at, say, Kurt Cobain, he died when he was 28. Like the material that he did and produced in the volume of which all, you know, as a result to this kind of lifestyle and the issues he had physically with his stomach and like the medication that he was like self-medicating and all that, like it. And Hendrix, you know, like I mean, there's a lot of these people where they went soon, but like all of that kind of fed into what they were doing creatively.
Mm.
And I know it's like it's easy to look at that stuff and be like, well, what if, you know, he had lived to 70 years old? Like I've seen Mick Jagger, like he doesn't look good. Like I don't, I just, some artists go, I think, when they're supposed to go, and you can't control that. I mean, it's nice to like sit there and be like, oh, it would be so, can you imagine? Like that's not reality, you know, like shit happens, and like we're lucky that that stuff exists
Yeah.
to like, you know, it's captured, you know, and art isn't always happy. Like there's a lot of pain sometimes, and it's human, you know, like it's okay to have that pain there. And like if you've experienced that, like it's relatable, and it's okay to have relatable moments of like things that are very real. And it's also totally okay to have silly and like look at my finger, you know. It's just like there's a lot of people that want that escape. So I don't think there's any like there's no wrong or right way. Some people it's less palatable for. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, like I'm not neurotypical, so like the things that most people are like, you know, react to, I don't have that same reaction to. So I can kind of look at it and be like just kind of observing and like, and whether it's good or bad, I think it helps me creatively. It makes it harder for me to live on the day to day and have normal relationships for sure.
Mm.
But the people that know me get that. And, you know, it aids me in that I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, like that idea of, I mean, the cards that you're dealt,
I can't change my
of just like,
genetics.
yeah, doing the best that you have with what you've been given.
Yeah, I am a master of
Oh yeah, your
sandwich.
sandwich, for anybody who's not watching. Sandwich master. Is there a story to that?
I received a graduate degree in sandwich. So
Oh,
that was just
look at that.
it was my 20s.
It's your 20s at the sandwich, Le Col de Sandwich. So when you were talking earlier about your why, that you didn't really feel like maybe you had a why, I thought, that's what you said. And then you proceeded to give, I think, a really great why. Like it to me, it sounds like your why isn't based on you becoming the most like a um successful, like outwardly successful person. It's not like your why isn't like based on like the applause of like the world. It seems like your why is coming from a place of you, it gives you more to live for now. It feels like it seems like it just, it's something you enjoy.
It's just
And it
boredom.
ah
Like I hate being bored. I
okay.
hate being bored more than anything.
Yeah.
And jokes are puzzles to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're these complicated, like trying to get a joke that works with your voice, that actually works from like it delivers a result and it's as tight as you can make it.
Uh-huh.
It's these endless puzzles that never stop. And like for me, I love that. Like it's not about the applause. It's like I get so much happiness out of like trying to figure these things out. And if I can get it to work, great. But
Yeah.
like sometimes just the process, like getting lost in joke writing
Hmm.
is amazing. Like, and that goes for the comic or writing the fake ads for my podcast. Like it's just,
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, let's talk about your podcast. Um but before we do that, I wanted to just touch back on when you said that it's hard to stay consistent doing something when you don't feel like it and you
mhm.
haven't gotten necessarily the outward sort of reassurance that like yes people want you to keep producing it if your numbers for your podcast or whatever aren't where you want it to be. um that yeah it's hard to stay motivated. And when you're saying a lot of people just make up excuses for things, um and I think it's good, really good to remember to come back to your why. Like to yeah, for me too, for my why. I mean, there's like definitely days where I'm like, I do the podcast, I don't feel like it. Which is part of why it's so great to have a guest, because it's like I'm gonna show up for that other person that I asked for their time.
Yeah.
And then as we're podcasting, I'm like, oh, this is so fun. Of course I remember why I do this. Like hopefully other people enjoy it, but like
Yeah. But the
I
booking
sure
and the
enjoy it.
scheduling and the like, all of that stuff, you're like, I didn't realize I was going to be an administrative assistant to
To
do this. Like,
myself, my own
and oh, I
administrative
need to
assistant.
be like gifted with audio tech stuff is like it's just
Yeah.
there's a big difference between being a good podcaster and being a good technician and
Yep.
planner, you know.
Right. Right. Well, and then the other thing that quote, I know it's like a Batman quote. I'm probably going to butcher from The Dark Knight. Um, where is it Maggie? Well, whoever his love interest is, she's like, it's not who you are on the inside, but it's what you do.
That defines you.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so, especially as I've gotten older and wiser, of like noticing that for myself and for other people too, especially dating advice, ladies or gents out there, like how much time has been wasted on listening to what a guy said instead of what he did. Because
I have no dating advice for anyone. I'm literally
you
the
know,
worst. So I'm gonna just defer to you on this and
oh
nod.
yeah, you can take the advice if it's useful for you.
That
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
no, it's just like, of either or friendships or whatever it is, whatever that sort of like relationship it is where you're listening to what somebody is saying more than their actions. Like, and I'm definitely a person where I use a lot of words. I like to read words. I like to hear all of that. But I mean, so words matter to me a lot, but to not be like words without the follow up action are meaningless. That, I mean, that's what I think. I think like you really see who people are through their actions. But yes, if like somebody's only like not like talk, I got to have a conversation with somebody. It's just, got to. But anyway, that point of like, look at somebody's actions and their actions will tell you who they really are. And so for myself too, like if I feel like I'm a little bit stuck with, I say I want to accomplish this goal and I'm, yeah, really motivated. I like to accomplish things. But if for some reason I'm having trouble like moving forward with accomplishing it and I'm focusing more on like an excuse, like, yeah, maybe I am exhausted from work or it's this or there's some other priority. Sometimes it's just like there's a different priority. But to just take that time to be accountable with oneself and be like, wait a second, is this a legitimate like is this a legitimate reason or is it an excuse because like ultimately you don't actually want to do the thing that you think you want to do.
and okay, let me preface one thing. Being compassionate with yourself too and having some kind of balance because like I'm someone that is horrible with that. And like I did 4 shows this weekend, a show on Thursday, show on Wednesday, and then a set between that. So it's
Wow.
like 7 or 8 spots. And I podcast, I write cartoons, and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, it'd be nice if I could sleep and maybe go for a run today or whatever. And
Right.
I love doing all this stuff, but like you gotta you do have to take care of you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of like realizing that the more I go, because sometimes like having the day job, like people don't get how you're literally putting in your 8 hours and then going to clock in another space that feels like work a lot of
Yep.
times. And just like being like, you know what, I can't do everything. And
Yep.
like, if I don't get this opportunity right now because of that, it's okay. Because there's always that race type feeling is never going to go away. And you pick your spots as to what's important to you. And I mean, like your guys' situation is going to be changing here dramatically.
Yep.
And you don't know what that's going to look like. And all you can do is like, just when you're in that moment, try to make the best decision and then be patient with yourself and like not, oh, I haven't released a podcast in so long. The people are gonna understand you had a goddamn kid. Okay. That's what they're gonna understand. And I think we need to do a better job as like a society of
Yes.
communicating that stuff. Cause
Also, dare I say, I feel like if I'm ever really clear on why I'm doing something, as much as I care about other people and I care about their opinions and I want them to be happy with me and blah blah blah, if I'm really really crystal clear on why I'm doing something, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. I mean, yes, you guys please still care. But do you know what I'm saying? I feel like that waffling comes from like if I'm feeling a little bit indecisive. And I'm saying that also too because of like I will say it about like safety protocol, right? Like with masks and stuff, like I am very clear on I'm not going to be around anybody right now unless if we both have masks on because it's necessary for our safety. And that's what I believe. That's what I
yeah,
believe from the science I've seen. Not everybody believes it. And you know, you're
as someone
entitled
with antibodies, I am on the other end
yeah,
of
like
that.
you're entitled to your opinion and
Yeah.
people are entitled to their opinion.
I
But
would say, based on my experience, you are very right.
exactly based
Um,
on me listening to what the experts have said, you
yeah,
know, and so that's something where like occasionally people have been irritated with me over that. And normally if it's somebody that I cared about that was irritated with me, I would think like, "Oh, did I like this or oh, should I change my mind?" But with this I'm like, "No.
yeah.
Like this is the boundary. This is the reason why, and I think it's the best for both of us." So, um just like tying that back in when we were talking about excuses.
And hold on. If you hadn't been that way, I wouldn't have been able to make fun of your fiance on my podcast a bunch for not coming to the episode. So it benefited all of us.
Oh, that's true. Man, that has been that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair to you, he waited to the last minute. So he kind of put you in a shitty situation.
Oh, that
And
definitely happened. But you guys, why are you telling everything to everybody? Can I just like cut this?
uh,
I'll leave it. I'll leave it. I'll just say like that's just real. And I don't know. Maybe I'll
hey, I
cut
mean,
it.
look, and I get throughout all that stuff, like I live by myself. Um, if I get sick, like it's me that wears it. Okay. Like I I understood the things that I was doing and said, you know what, this is where I'm at with it. I know what my potential risk is. And I was going crazy. I lived in a goddamn 1 bedroom apartment by myself without seeing anybody for basically a year. I
Yeah.
needed to do something. And so some people might say, hey, you're being selfish or whatever. Like I went down to go see my family. Like I and got sick. And luckily I was with my family to where they could take care of me and I was very comfortable. But
Well,
my mom
I think
cooks a hell of a meal too.
yum. That sounds some good home cooking. Yeah, I'm gonna resist the urge to ask about the meal in detail. I'll ask you after the podcast, but I'll ask you for pictures of the meal if you still have it. No, but like, um, that yeah, that's definitely something with like understanding people's circumstances too, because I definitely have thought like, ugh, like that quote or whatever we've seen, like everybody's in the same storm, but they're not on the same ship or something. I mean, it's been a vastly different experience for so many people getting through the like pandemic and
You
just
should see how the news
people,
is in Utah and Arizona versus the news up here. That's what's trippy, is
man.
like how much from state to state what people are saying and what the guidelines
Yeah.
say. And like the weirdest thing was Vegas. Like I went down to meet my friend in Vegas on my way to Arizona, and like I'm walking through the floor, and there's people all over the betting floor, and like they're trying to high five each other at the craps table, but like they're not allowed to touch each other, and they're wearing masks, but they have to pull them down to smoke a cigarette. So like if you're smoking, you pull it down, inhale, exhale. um
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
no, it
That
doesn't.
doesn't make any sense.
No. And Starbucks was closed though, because all of that can go on, but you can't drink coffee there.
No. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have often wondered about that. Um, it, it does help me to be more like empathetic or understanding of other people. And like, you know what, if I was receiving the information they were receiving, I probably would make the same choices that they did. Probably. I mean, if you think like if it's like a matrix situation and you're downloading all the intel that that person has, probably you're going to make the same choice because everybody's doing their best. But
I didn't even
it
know what
doesn't
the
make their choices
CDC
right,
was.
huh?
I didn't even know what the CDC was last year. I never heard of that before. Like
Oh,
I don't research this shit. I'm like I write cartoons, do stand up and like podcasts. I mean,
yeah.
I didn't no one has been prepared for this, and like the
Well,
news sources that you go to.
none of the regular peoples.
That was interesting to watch, just like normal people with two-car garages like trying to navigate a year of them not being able to go to the golf course and fucking whatever. I thought it was entertaining at times, because it was like Verlin and I talked about. I mean, he was a Marine for 19 years,
Yeah.
and it's like, how mentally tough can you be in these situations? And like people were, it's like, I can't go at the mall, and it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Like what's your perspective and how do you use your like I don't know. What is
very
your why? That's
comfortable.
another thing it comes
What's
back
your
to. What
why?
is your why? And then your actions, how they go towards it. Cuz I also feel like I wouldn't need hard evidence for people to tell me to wear a mask in order for it to protect somebody else. I would just be like, "Okay." But then again, I'm not like in it for 8 hours every single day, so it doesn't affect me to the
Like
same
wet panties on your face after like 8 hours. It's disgusting. Like I
that
feel bad for any of those people. Not that I like, yeah, you got to work a job or whatever, but it's just,
yeah, I better remember to mark this episode explicit. Just you mentioned something earlier about the way that you say things, and I was like, I don't know, have I heard you say stuff like that? And then you gave me evidence, so thank
yeah.
you for that.
I mean, I didn't get into, I'm not a school teacher.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a
Well,
comic. Like,
yeah, yeah. Well, listen up. We have like pretty much run out of time, but I didn't even ask you so many of the things I was going to ask you. So I have to ask you about, can you talk about your podcast Fadam and Friends a bit more? And like your commercials are fun,
yeah.
right? I haven't heard them all, you guys. So if you go listen to the
Yeah.
podcast and there's a commercial that you hear and you're like, Samantha, what did you say? I probably didn't listen to it. Okay.
I didn't
But
know like
the
this
yeah.
podcast was PG-13. So if I did offend anybody, I apologize. Yeah. So Fathom and Friends is not uh, probably family friendly, but we got a lot of different types of guests from, I mean, Samantha's been on it, but we do episodes every other week that are like full episodes. And then every other week we're doing like these bonus kind of just, you know, if I can get somebody, do a fun conversation. They're usually shorter, but each episode is sort of an interview and like a section on stories themselves. So the guest brings funny stories or interesting stories. And we've had, professional poker players, MLS players. Uh, at the time, it was for the Seattle Sounders. We just had a NASCAR driver on, and that'll release tomorrow, March 29th, and some
Oh, this episode
CEOs.
won't be out that soon.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
CEOs and actors, actresses like yourself, other podcasters. And I don't know, it's been a really fun thing to like see grow, and I've learned a lot from people and like about different perspectives and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it's a little weird when you have a podcast and you have your way of viewing things, and then you got someone come on and they're like, oh man, this is a very right wing person, or like this is a very blue person. Like you still have to have a conversation with them throughout that and respect their opinions, and so there's been some of that. And um I don't it's been, I think what we are going to be doing, like, do you know who Chris Freitag is?
Uh-uh.
She's a like a fitness personality, uh if that's the right term, I don't know, uh
Yeah, she sounds. I think I know what you mean.
like an at-home workout DVD
Oh, cool. Yeah.
type person.
Hmm.
um she's a family friend, so she's going to be coming on talking about like being in that space in the industry for a long period of time as a female, and like, it's a very like, vanity is, you know very important in the industry of that. And like, I'm curious as to what that's like as your career goes on,
Yeah.
to be to have the spotlight on you and shit like that. So it's a lot of fun. I mean,
Yeah. I will say too, like I do enjoy like that is something I really enjoy about getting to be a host on a podcast too, is because like even people that I know, I won't like if we were hanging out with masks 6 feet apart, but like if we well you pull down your mask to smoke your cigarette. No, but if we were hanging out, like we would not have this conversation if it was just like a regular hangout. It would be different.
yeah,
Like it's yeah, it just lends itself to being able to have a conversation in like a deeper way, but it's not like therapy, even though sometimes maybe some things might come up that you might, do in a session, but it's just like it's kind of its own little thing that has its own set of quote unquote normal in terms of like this focus of conversation and where you can go with it, and just being able to like sit in a conversation with somebody. It's really nice.
it is. It has the propensity to go in so many different directions too. Like
Hmm.
it just, the more I do it, it goes back to that same stuff where it's like you can prepare all you want, but like sometimes you get in the interview and like the person's just not a linear thinker, and you want, like, you got a plan, you got a skeleton of how this conversation's going to go, and you got to like sort of adapt to that person's style. And it's, the more I do it, the more I realize, like, yeah, just you're not going to get any better at it by not doing it. Like,
Yeah.
you just keep doing it and be authentic to you. And hopefully people enjoy it. If they don't, fuck them. Like, it's, your stuff's not for everyone. That's okay too. Like, it's, I mean, if it was, it'd be a little weird, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, is like your stuff isn't for everyone because there's nothing that's for everyone. I mean, water, we all need water, but even with water, everybody has their opinion. Like, I want cold water, I want warm water, it has to be bottled water, only this brand water. Like, we don't even all drink water the same way, and we all need it.
Audiences are more um entitled now than they've ever been. Like, the number of choices that they have and
Yep.
opinions that they have, and it's sort of a thing where you're like, hey, it's impossible to meet all of these expectations. Like, you can sit around and pander and do all that shit. At the end of the day, like, the best version of you that you can be is you.
Hmm.
Like, and it's really hard to be you sometimes, like you get in a room full of strangers and it's like, hey, just be you. Let's try that. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't think these people are going to like me. Like,
Yeah. Which
they're
I
going to
will,
look at me
yeah,
and be like, what's up with this guy?
which I also find to be an interesting thing to say, like just be you to an actor, which maybe for non-actors it's not the same sort of like what, but like for actors especially like myself and ones that I know, like you get trained to be so many different aspects of yourself to pull out for the character. That's it. It's like, what does this even mean? Like me in what situation? Like, obviously there's going to be some level of you-ness that's always there, but I think it's sometimes easier for other people to pick out like your essence, you know,
Yeah.
versus it's like, well, me when I'm talking to you on the podcast right now, or like if I'm talking to like, I don't know, if I was at a job interview or I don't know, meeting the president and which president, or like
Yeah.
just gonna be like
Yeah,
different
exactly.
different varieties of you that are like surfacing in a way.
Acting is so like, it's this onion that I haven't peeled back at all, but I find it really fascinating because like I really don't know what makes like good or bad acting. I can kind of tell when it is bad acting,
Mm-hmm.
but besides that, like there are certain movies where like I love the movies because it feels like there's no rough edges. Like it's just very like polished across. Like you were talking about Batman, and I rewatched The Dark Knight,
Yeah.
and Heath Ledger in that is just like I know how much pain he was in at that point in his life, and like I was looking at the catalog of all the movies that he had done. Like I love 10 Things I Hate About You. It's one of my favorite movies, and I think he was fucking incredible in it.
That was a
Please,
great movie.
please don't shit on me for that.
No, I'm not. It was like based off of Taming of the Shrew, like Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. It was like a modern version of it.
Did you know it was shot here?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I knew it was shot in the Pacific Northwest, but I haven't seen it in so long that I should rewatch it. I really liked it when I was younger.
So the house she's living in is in West Seattle, and then or it might be on Bainbridge,
Mhm.
and then the high school is Stadium High School, I think down near Tacoma, and that's where he does the "I Love You, Baby" like song over the.
I haven't seen it in so
I
long.
think that's the song he does, but yeah, he just all those movies that he did. That I think he did like a indie movie, and then broke back, and then he did um Batman, and
Mhm.
that's just another one of those people who's like you don't see anything but the character in that movie. Like sometimes you'll get a glimpse of like, oh, that's Heath Ledger, like from behind his hair and stuff. But
Yeah.
besides that, it's so it's the most vivid, real
Mhm.
character I think I've seen in a movie, at least modern wise. And I see that, I'm like, damn, that's badass. But I have no idea how somebody like gets there or whatever.
Mhm.
And I don't know. Acting's interesting to me. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I would want to do it, but I respect it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love his performance in it. And that was definitely one of those losses that made me like personally I got sad about. Every now and again like there'll be, I mean it's always sad when somebody passes, but like for people we don't know or like celebrities, like some of them hit harder than others and how you feel it. But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and there's nowhere where for me to go else there other than like sit in my moment of like silence. So I'm actually going to go on to uh, the contrast of your comic strip, just
That's
because
fine.
for time for Beefcake and Butterball, and also yeah, Fadam and Friends. Why is it Fadam?
Oh,
Where do you come with the name?
my brother growing up, like I was kind of chubby, and he nicknamed me Fatum, like because my name's Adam and I was fat, and I hated it. I hated it so much. Like I hate it because it was kind of a good nickname. Like it was pretty clever for like I think he was like 7.
Yeah.
And then when I was coming up with the idea of the show, like I was like, I want to do a show where it's just my friends and stuff on. Like naming stuff is so difficult. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, I hate that name. That'd be kind of funny if I used the name that I hated. Yeah, let's just do that. And so Fadam and
Yeah.
Friends.
You reclaimed that name, man. You made it your own. And then the
And I got to get him back when he came on. So it was like it came full circle.
oh, well, that's good then,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it was satisfying for you to be like, haha, gotcha. But that also probably explains like some of the pictures that you do. Because if you guys haven't seen Fadman and Friends, like again, go check it out. But also like the art is so cool. Like the art for each episode. I personally love the art that was done for the episode that I got to be on. So and it was a fun episode too, if you want to give it a listen.
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought the art came out great for that too. And I was eating a sandwich in it.
oh, you
That
were.
yeah.
Look at that.
It's yeah,
That's
that's why I
all.
wore this shirt today.
See, look at that planning. Um, yeah, okay. So, and then also you co-produced the comic strip Beefcake and Butterball. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, what's the inspiration for that? Like, just I think that's great. I've never made a comic, so what what talk about tell us about that.
Yeah, it so Chase Moore is the artist I work with, and he's like on Instagram at Chase Moore and at Tan Samurai. He's got like a page for just his art, and then he does music too. But so Chase does all the cover art for the podcast, and then we also collaborate. I write the comic strip, and he like draws it. So ideal, like when we started the podcast, I was like, I want to do a podcast, but I don't want to do one like every week. And so we've gotten towards doing it weekly, but initially we were doing a pod one week, a comic strip the other, and just alternate.
Yeah.
And it was nice to like get that variety because it's like, I don't know, it's working in the same medium can be kind of tedious sometimes. And the comic strip, I always loved Calvin and Hobbes. Like
Oh,
it
yeah.
was, I love that like short form comic. And I was curious, like, if I could make one. And I don't know where this character came to me from. Like, I used to have a whiteboard in my apartment, and I would always draw this like piece of meat with eyes and a smiley face. And somebody asked me who it was, and I was like, it's Beefcake. Like I don't know. It was just one eye was always bigger than the other. And so I had this like weird just thing that like
Yeah.
had come to me. I was like, well, who would Beefcake's best friend be? A ball of butter. And like I don't like I
Yeah.
was trying to think of like funny foods. And then like this has been different for me because a lot of people I get why they do it. Like they write, the Bible on what they're doing and then they produce it and stuff. Like I've been growing throughout all of this. So like my writing has gotten better, and I wanted both the podcast and the comic strip to be spaces that I could play and develop.
Mm-hmm.
Like because it's so hard to get stage time, like especially when you're starting out in comedy, like nobody wants to book you. So these were two places where there were no gatekeepers. It was just a place for me to develop. So I took a lot of chances. Sometimes they were really offensive or like, just it was me learning,
Mm-hmm.
but I've learned so much from doing both those. And like Beefcake and Butterball is just this silly space with two best friends and like their arch nemesis, Meatloaf and Butterstick. And we've got I've written 70 episodes, and like we're up to episode 43 right now. So um it's super fun. There's no like real point or substance to the story.
Uh-huh.
It's just two guys, like they're two guys that are best friends that love going to the gym together,
Uh-huh.
but they never see the aesthetic benefits of exercise.
Uh
And so like every time they're always going in there and working out, but their bodies never change. And I don't know if
uh
that will eventually change, but like, because there was one episode where Butterball started taking fat burners because he wanted a beach body, and Beefcake had to save him because it would kill him because like all the fat burner would melt his butter off.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's also super challenging because you have 4 panels based on how we do it. Like most episode are 4 panels to write beginning, middle, end
Uh-huh.
in 4 panels is incredibly challenging because you're writing visually, like narratively and emotionally.
Right.
And to think on those levels, like it seems like such a simple thing, but it's like a short movie every time you.
Right. It's almost, yeah, harder because of how concise you have to be. Like you have to hit everything so quickly.
And you have to understand how much the reader is going to understand. You're guessing, like you don't
Right.
know how far they're going to be with you or not with you, how much they remember, because I know the whole story,
Yeah.
I wrote it all, but like some people are going to see it and be like they're not going to remember that piece or whatever. But
Hmm.
there are times where I'm like, I don't care, this is funny to me. Like I like, okay, so the next episode, I'll tell you this ahead of time. Like sometimes with this, like I just get selfish, like like, you know what, I'm doing an episode that I think is funny regardless. Like, do you know what a balaclava is?
No, I don't think so.
Considering that you love masks, it's surprising you don't, but it's like a
Oh, is it a Commedia dell'arte one?
it's it's one that just has like the eyes.
You said
um
how much I love masks, and I didn't realize that you meant safety
yeah,
masks. I
yeah.
was thinking like
Shit, I got you.
theatrical masks. It
Balaclava is Balaclava.
be. Oh yeah, here it is.
So it's a winter
Wow.
mask. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's something that in like I was born in Vermont and I grew up in Minnesota. So in cold states, like people wear them a lot.
Yeah.
And so in the episode, I'm doing Butterball comes in and it's snowing outside. And Beefcake's like, "Did you get them?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." And he's holding a grocery bag and Beefcake reaches into it and he's like, What is this?" And Butterball's like, "The snack you asked me to get." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Snack? I said, get 2 balaclavas because it's cold outside." And Butterball just reaches and grabs it and goes, "Oh, I thought you said baklava." And then
Yeah.
he starts eating it. And in those states, like those 2 words get confused a lot. My mom thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I
Anybody
don't
from
think
that?
anybody is really going to like it besides my mom and I.
Oh,
Like,
I think anybody from that area will find it funny.
yeah. But
Yeah.
most of my readers aren't from the area. And I'm
Yeah,
just
they're
like, you know
not as
what?
familiar with the terms.
Mother likes this. Sometimes you just have to like have a moment like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
That's yeah, that's cool.
yeah, it's a silly, ridiculous thing. It's one of my favorite things to do because there are no rules. Like I just have to use my best judgment. And sometimes I go too far with something but you can't get canceled if you didn't get started. Like it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
and yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
I just realized there was more to what you were saying.
Well,
But
I'm just saying.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, just from like other conversations I've heard you like having about that. But let's see. Okay, so I have to ask you something else before you leave. Because I always ask, but I feel like you've answered so many of these, which has been great. But just to make it more concise, can you tell us about like any challenges that you've faced um and like how you get past them, or like the best and worst things for like your experience in stand-up comedy and podcasting and in making the comics? This is the life lessons part of the
Yeah,
podcast,
no,
which
I
I know
mean,
we covered, but I'm just like concisely putting it in.
yeah, like I guess I hate saying this, like it's so douchey, but like in stand up, being like a white dude, like there's a million of us. So like you don't need any more white dudes in stand up comedy. There's plenty of them. And so like when you're going around starting out, like nobody gives a shit because like you're just one in a million of all these dudes. And I don't know if I took it personally or like I thought people just didn't like me or what. I don't know. I don't have all this shit figured out, but like if I could go back to those moments, I wouldn't wear it on the chin so much because it made me really angry at times. So it's just like I'm trying to do is like work on my craft.
Mm-hmm.
And I met people like, your dude who
Mm-hmm.
really like gave me some awesome perspective and like learning from people that are like that you respect their work.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so much like personality and politics and like dumb stuff in these spaces that really doesn't matter. Like if you like somebody's stuff and they're friendly towards you, like you can learn a lot from other artists. And I think to me, like that I wish I would have known earlier and like not trying to like just be just be cool to them. Like you don't need to go up and ask them 10 million questions. Just be friends with them. Like be friendly. You don't have to suck up to people or whatever. And like some people aren't going to give you the time of day because they think you're like below them or whatever. They're not like above you. Their ego may say that. Like, I mean, I think it's kind of funny that the status and clout in some of these spaces are like last I checked, most of these folks aren't on Netflix and they're not on TV and like the ego that goes with them it reminds me of pickup basketball sometimes where like a guy will be talking shit to everyone. Oh shit. It's like last I checked, nobody from the NBA is scouting this game, like it's just like weird dynamics like that. So I don't know, just being a good person, finding other people that you respect their work, and just being cool with them, like being a normal human being
Yeah.
to them and not trying to like angle anything, but just try to learn from their experience too.
Yeah.
And you're
And I
not going
like
to
that.
make everyone happy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like that point that you brought up too. I mean, yeah, it must be an interesting experience for being a man of typical privilege to be in a scenario where it's like so much harder to get a start just because of the saturation of the market. But then like knowing
How dare you refer to my people
I
as a
know, I know,
commodity?
right? I know. Well, because it's because of the way you brought it up. I was
You're
not
going to get
able to go
canceled
there.
now. You can't talk about white men like
Of
commodities.
course I can. I'm half. I'm half. I can
Yeah,
say whatever I want,
you
you
can
guys.
say
It's
whatever you
infinity.
please.
Yeah, but the
Sorry.
the the thing though, like I that you brought up that I think is so important for any artist or really anyone in any situation is to understand what it is that like to get clear on what the situation really is so that you understand on what to not take personally, you know, that so often we can take things personally because we haven't really seen like the whole picture to understand like wait, this isn't about me, this is just like these are kind of the current rules right now, and like knowing that how do I work with that framework.
Yeah, and it sucks because a lot of us have the emotional maturity of like a 14-year-old. Like especially when you're in that vulnerable space when you start,
Hmm.
like it's
Well, good for you to keep going when you were like starting out and people weren't like being so kind to you. Because to be honest, like when I started doing stand up, if people weren't kind to me, I don't know how much I would have kept doing it because I, I, I was at a place where it was something I was doing because I enjoyed it. and then it built in something more. But if I had started out and like people just initially started hating on me, I probably would have been like, I don't need this stress. Let me go find something else I enjoy.
There is sort of a like a
Or else I would have been like, F that. Now I'm here to stay and I'm going to make you watch me succeed. Like,
I
nobody puts
mean
baby in a corner.
there
You
is
know,
some of that
could have
where
been
I'm
that
like
too.
there's like a fraternity aspect of like the hazing the new guy. And I talked to Wilfred Padua, came on my pod, and like he had been in Seattle, and he talked about there was definitely like a hazing component of the scene here. And initially when I started, I was met with a lot of that where it's like, hey, the new person's here. This is a new guy, just shit on him as much as possible. And like I feel like a lot of times when these comics that are have more time than the new person are shitting on the new person, like they're doing it more for them than like they're not hazing that person because um they think that person needs it. It's like they personally need you to know that they're above you. And it's like, what kind of I mean, it's like when someone headlines and they're like constantly telling you that they're headlining. It's like you're telling that to me more for you than you are for me. You know, like I
Yeah.
got it the first time, the fourth time, it's like you really need me to know that you headline. You know, and
Yeah.
it's like go ahead and headline the casino in whatever fucking Missouri or whatever. Like I don't do whatever you want to do. That's fine, but um, I don't really think shitting on people especially that are new and don't have any perspective helps them a lot. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'm haven't like given up on the new person yet, but
Well, I
my
think
experience has never been that like making somebody else feel small for your own sake really benefits you. Like,
right. I think that people you don't need to do that if you're in a good place. Why do you want to make somebody miserable if you're not miserable? And also too being like somebody who's also moved around a lot, it's how people treat new people. Like I pay attention to that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean a lot of times it's the people that have been there the longest that are the meanest.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're super comfortable. It's like, hey, somebody's here, let's fuck with them. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. But think about this for a second. How well would have you and I gotten along if we had crossed paths, when we were younger?
You think we would have been best friends
Oh
forever?
yeah. I mean,
Totally.
it could have been pre-Mike. It just all the I couldn't even look at the camera.
You know what? I
Oh,
can't release this episode.
it's gonna
I'm
be a
gonna. I
silly
can't.
one.
This episode will never be released. It's for
You
Patreon
look
only.
flushed.
Oh my god, you're embarrassing me. It'll be for Patreon only fans. Patreon
Are you
for
on
like a
Patreon?
$1 million. You can get this episode. Now I'm gonna have to release this episode with a disclaimer, and I might actually have to title it the expletive episode or something, so people know it's going to be quite different.
Hey, before I go, I just want to give a shout out to your mom's. She's cool as hell.
I
Um,
know. Yeah, my mom is gonna love this. I'm gonna have to put it out there because she's gonna get a kick out of it, and you
this
might
is the
get a
problem. I
strongly
say a
worded
bunch of
email.
stuff that people don't like, but they tend to like me as a person.
No, it's so funny though. Well, here's the thing. This was not the typical episode, and I had a feeling it wasn't going to be a typical episode, anyways, just because of like, some of your comedy or just like you're not a theater nerd. Not like I
Yeah.
only have theater nerds on it, but it's like different vibe. Yeah, jazz hands. So, we're gonna leave the episode on. You guys enjoy it. It's been fun and slightly embarrassing, but I think like the points, like you made some really good points about perseverance and being true to yourself, and that there's a space for everybody in the creative area, and like you don't have to be like super like lofty about your reasons for why you're doing something, and you don't have to be appropriate all the time, or this other thing. Like you have your space and you have your place, and this episode will be an interesting one. So maybe don't share any comments with me this week, you guys. No, just kidding. I might actually get some comments, which will be fun. um but you guys, for more of Adam's hilariousness, you can go follow him again at www.adamtillercomedy.com. Check out the podcast at Fan F Pod, Fadam and Friends. And then, of course, the comic strip at Beefcake and Butterball. And then, of course, with how professional I was this episode, I'm sure that this will be very convincing. But I do know what I'm talking about, you guys. If you are looking for a coach to help you with performance skills so that you can better connect with your voice, body, and mind to communicate with more of your whole self, doesn't have to be serious. As you can see, it can be pretty silly sometimes. You can always reach me at beyondtechniquecoaching@gmail.com. I could help you with interview prep, auditions, comedy, just, all sorts of things that it is relatable to. And then if you enjoyed the episode, please like, subscribe, and share. Let people know that there may be some expletives in it. So I'd say adults only on this one. And then if you are financially inclined and able, you can always support the podcast by going to Patreon at Beyond Technique with Samantha Rund and show your support that way. It really does help keep up with production and costs. And yeah, last but not least, please continue to stay safe and stay healthy. And see you
Mask
next time.
up.